these other people. And that's the reason I'm pissed off.
That's not true.
And it's
Yes,
just
I did.
vomiting out of me because I've sat here with it just like Christine.
What if the woman that no one gave a second look was the one sitting on the truth all this time? For more than a decade, we watched Meri Brown smile lovely, slowly fade into obscurity, and quietly absorb blow after blow, while Cody and Robyn take the headlines, spearheading the show. What if that silence wasn't tranquility, though? What if it was tension building? And what if Meri wasn't the issue, but the evidence? This week, the internet was buzzing when a grainy late-night video surfaced, one that fans now call the beginning of the breakup. In the video, what most believe to be the voices of Robyn and Cody can be heard, not declaring they're concerned or upset, but desperate as they whisper about Meri. Then came the real shocker, a yellow sticky note, handwritten by Robyn herself, discovered stuck to an old lease document from Meri's Las Vegas property. Just 5 words, but those 5 were enough to shake the foundation of the sister wives' empire. Don't discuss this just yet. That wasn't a note. That was a receipt, a verification that the piece we witnessed on TV was not there organically. It was manufactured. And then, out of the woods, Meri finally spoke up, in her own voice, her own words, off her own porch. No producers, no editing, no cuts, just real life, raw and uncut. And when she did, Cody lost it, on set, on camera, so horribly that security reportedly had to step in and break it up. So today, this isn't just another recap. We're stepping through a reckoning, one that's been building off camera for years. You're watching Reality Recap, and I'm Anya, your go-to for the raw tea, the behind-the-scenes moments, and the truth behind reality TV. So strap yourself in, press that subscribe button, and share your opinion down in the comments. Because this time around, the truth is not coming from Cody. It's coming from the woman that they attempted to erase. And then, at exactly 2:14 a.m., everything changed. No official release, no banner headline, just a blurry 2-minute video that dropped on Reddit like lightning. No music playing in the background, no intro, just echoing footsteps, a fluorescent-lit corridor, and a jerky cam shot, like someone not wanting to get caught. At first, it was nothing, just background clatter, behind-the-scenes chatter. But then there were the voices, low, anxious, and unmistakable. Robyn's voice was the first, shaking but sharp. "She's planning something," she said. "Meri's been speaking to people who want her gone." There was a long pause, almost as if she didn't want to say more. "If she speaks the truth out loud, you won't survive this." Then Cody's voice broke through, cold and blunt, cutting like a blade. "She doesn't have the guts. She's been bluffing for years. We'll bury her." That was the moment. Fans didn't need HD video or perfect audio. They recognized those voices. They felt the fear, and they immediately saw through the act. This wasn't an emotional argument. This was strategy. An in-camera war room sit-down, 2 people plotting to silence Meri before she could say anything at all to the world. And the fandom lost it. TikTok was flooded with slowed-down meltdown. YouTube was flooded with frame-by-frame deconstruction. Twitter, now X, collapsed into chaos. People weren't just shocked, they were outraged, because this was no longer about a marriage falling apart. It was about manipulation. This was for Meri, a woman who had been erased, slurred, shoved to the margin, and kept there by 2 individuals who had portrayed themselves as the stable foundation of the family. And now that fantasy was finally unraveling. What hurt the worst wasn't even the betrayal, it was that it hadn't been an accident. Behind the weeping, the spirituality sermons, the staged apologies, was a calculated, cold play to claim the narrative and destroy the sole woman who waited for as long as she did. 2 minutes. That's all it took to destroy everything we thought we knew about sister wives. And in the crack, Meri finally had the space to speak. No lighting rig, no camera equipment, no pre-filmed scene, just a gray sweater, a porch swing, and snowflakes landing behind her. That's how Meri Brown finally chose to be heard. For real. Years of confessionals interrupted and moments pulled out. Her video taken out of every element of production. No dramatic sound, no abrupt cut, no flashy intro. One camera, one soft light, and a woman who waited years to tell them what she could never say before. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about bitterness. It was about visibility. "I gave everything to this family," she whispered, "and they got to hurt me. And when it hurt, I said nothing. When I felt invisible, I smiled." Her voice cracked, not with theatrics, but with the raw pain of holding everything in for so long. She never screamed. She never even called anyone out by name. But each word fell like it had been burning her up inside for a decade of torturous years. And the internet? It waited with bated breath. This wasn't the Meri fans had been spoon-fed for 18 full seasons. This wasn't the cold, withdrawn, or passive wife Cody had described over and over. This was a woman who had been silenced, restricted, and erased. And now she had reclaimed her voice. One of the most chilling moments came when she looked straight into the camera and whispered, "I'm not unstable. I'm free." That line shattered people. The comments section came pouring over, fans and survivors as well. Women who had experienced the personal knowing of what it feels like to be silenced for the sake of maintaining the peace. Her words did not need flash. They hit with subtle destruction, and that is exactly why they cut so deeply. Meri's unflinching, steadfast honesty cut more deeply than any reunion special or tell-all could ever aspire. It cut through editing, it exposed the facade, and it completely dispelled the story TLC had allowed Cody and Robyn to spin for years. Meri wasn't just one of the subjects of the show. She was the teller of the story, and for the first time ever, we were finally being told the truth by her. For years, Robyn Brown was portrayed as the gentle one, the soft-spoken peacemaker, misunderstood, and always wanting harmony. But one small yellow sticky note, just 5 words, ripped that entire image apart. "Don't discuss this just yet." Those words, scribbled in Robyn's handwriting and stuck to a lease agreement from Meri's Las Vegas home, were small but thunderous. Meri posted it on her Instagram story. No caption, no context, just that note, peeking from the side of a document like a ghost, finally stepping into view. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be, because in that one post, fans saw more than a clue. They saw proof, not a rumor, not a theory, evidence. Robyn hadn't just benefited from Meri's silence. She had orchestrated it. The same woman who blubbered on demand and gave sermons about uniting was the same woman who told Meri to shut up when no one was looking. And then it spiraled out of control. A cease and desist order appeared, directly from Robyn's team to a small podcast that had politely contacted Meri for an interview. The letter was a threat to the podcast and actually delivering on content that would damage the Brown family's reputation. Legalese? Sure, but the audience wasn't perceiving it as that. Not concern, control. It was obvious. Robyn wasn't reacting to the family dynamic. She was manipulating it. She was the choreographer, using concern as cover, tears as props, and contracts as weapons. Her public image still soft, spiritual, serene. Behind the curtain, though, something else simmered. Strategy, precision, manipulation. This was the Robyn that most fans had long suspected was hiding behind the curtain. The one cameras never quite got, but the other wives, Meri, Christine, and Janelle, faced every day. She didn't need to scream. She just needed Cody to do it for her. But now, the mask was starting to crack. And for the very first time in all her life, the woman who had always seemed so innocent was being seen for what she really was. Not a victim of the tale, but one of the players forming it. That bit of tacky paper, that was her signature. And if there was ever a moment when the mask fell away altogether, it was here. The camera was no longer rolling. Cameras rolled quietly. A producer asked a harmless, direct question about Meri's latest video, but it that came next was raw, unscripted, and completely off the rails. Cody blew his top. The smooth, cool voice that fans had grown accustomed to hearing in confessionals? Gone. Replaced with rage. "She's ungrateful," he shouted. "She wants to destroy everything I gave her. For what? A story? A victim title?" The entire crew froze. Cast members grew silent. A producer stepped in, trying to calm him. But Cody didn't relent. His anger didn't abate. It grew. Security was called. And within seconds, the man who had become synonymous with the character of Sister Wives for over a decade was removed from set. No public statement. No TLC news release. Just a quiet leak. A leaked internal HR report surfaced online within 48 hours. And in one simple sentence, they summed it all up. Because of conflict with production personnel and refusal to comply with filming procedures, Kody Brown will be suspended from Sister Wives production for 18 days, 18 days. It hadn't seemed like much, but symbolically, it was a collapse. For the first time, the show went on without him, and in his absence, something started to shift. Producers who had previously resorted to depicting Cody as the good, unfairly maligned patriarch started rummaging through reruns of existing, never-aired footage, nervous, emotionally closed off, gaslit bits they'd omitted to safeguard the reputation of the show. But now, they weren't safeguarding him anymore. And the audience? They caught on immediately. Cody's breakdown wasn't about Meri standing up for herself, it was losing control. His decades-long narrative was collapsing, and for the first time, it wasn't outside observers doubting him. It was the very people he thought he'd shut up. And TLC, they didn't bail him out. They pressed pause. For years, Cody controlled every space. He was the voice, the center, the authority. But now, he was a liability. And for the first time ever in Sister Wives history, the show moved forward without him. It started quietly. So quietly, most viewers barely even registered it. The season 19 trailer dropped with usual drama. Soft piano notes, slow-motion striding, promises of healing and new beginnings. But something about it felt off. And then it was clear. Cody and Robyn were nowhere to be found. No interviews, no snuggly couch time, no tearful speeches by Cody about leadership or respect. Instead, there was Meri, Christine, and Janelle, front and center. The very same women who had been pushed to the sidelines all those years were suddenly running the show. At first, everybody thought it was a mistake, or maybe just a single-episode prom, but then the official press packet came out. And Cody and Robyn's names? Completely left out. This wasn't a trailer. This was a flip. Off camera, even more nuts. Emails began leaking. Internal memos between TLC producers and marketing teams. One memo, sent soon after Cody's on-set breakdown, read, "We are reconsidering the course of the season. The audience is firmly in the other wives' camp. We need to shift gears." Another document, marked confidential, made it crystal clear: we can no longer uphold the Brown family image at the expense of truth. This is no longer viable storytelling. That line struck home. No longer uphold the image, because that's exactly what the show had been doing for years. Viewers had always sensed that TLC was editing around dysfunction, hiding the true dynamic in an effort to preserve Cody and Robyn as the show's emotional supports. But now, the illusion was beginning to break, and the network was in an uproar. Internal factions began forming within TLC. Some longtime producers, committed to the original story, resisted the change. But newer producers, especially female producers, pushed back. They insisted on doing it differently, one that finally gave room to the women who had lived through the silence. And the numbers backed them up. Meri's quiet porchside video? Over 3 million views in mere days. Christine's memoir? Sold out in pre-orders. Janelle's quiet strength? Resonating in ways no one had predicted. This wasn't just a storyline shakeup. This was TLC finally realizing they had been backing the wrong lead all along, and now they were trying to make it right. For more than a decade, the show was about Cody, his choices, his tantrums, his rule, but the minute the women started talking openly, unscripted, honest, unfiltered, the spotlight moved. And TLC, long the gatekeeper of that light, finally moved over. Because this is the truth. Audiences are finished with the fantasy. They want the women who lived it in real life. It did not filter through some network leak. It did not come through paparazzi exposure. It came in a TikTok video, posted by a woman with no intro music, no filters, and no script. Just one sentence. If you want to see the real Robyn, take a seat. That woman? Robyn Brown's estranged half-sister, Belle. And what happened next? A 45-minute expose that rocked the internet to its foundations. Belle didn't shriek. She didn't point fingers. She outlined, cold, calm, and crystal clear. She talked about how she lived with Robyn, observing her learn to weaponize tears in order to manipulate, guilt to control, and vulnerability to guard against. In Belle's opinion, Robyn had always been a master at warping a room with a single tear. And Cody? He was the perfect stage audience. She weaponized sympathy, Bell matter-of-factly explained, and TLC provided her with a national audience on which to do so. The video trended, over 10 million views in the first 24 hours. And the messages? They poured in. Not just from supporters, but from women everywhere, those who had seen the same patterns play out in their homes, churches, relationships, and workplaces. Women who were silenced, told to be quiet, to stay soft, not to make waves. And at that moment, Meri was no longer alone. There was a collective awakening, a tipping point. The wife, once condescended to be weak, emotional, irrelevant, was now being heard, believed, and seen. Because this wasn't about Meri alone. It was about every woman whose truth was considered too much, too messy, too painful. But Meri did not stay quiet. And when she first spoke out, millions stood along with her. Because history tries to silence women, but when women stop whispering and start speaking, the world notices. Meri was never ever the loudest in the room. And maybe that's exactly why her voice cut so deep. Because when she did finally talk, she didn't need to yell. She was finished with secrets. And it was not a scandal or a tabloid headline that shattered Kody Brown's hold on the narrative. It was Meri. Her voice, bald, unafraid, and unstoppable. A voice they tried to silence with guilt, contracts, editing, and silence. They succeeded to an extent. Even Kody's last-ditch effort, a $230,000 lawsuit and a gag order, bombed. The judge wasn't having it. The viewers weren't having it. And Meri? She didn't even blink. She presented the draft NDA, not from lawyers, but one handwritten by Robyn in 2020, and declared it loud and clear. You don't get to control my story anymore. That wasn't just a legal victory. That was closure. For her, for Christine, for Janelle, and for every viewer who had sensed the truth behind the show's curtain for years. And here's what's real. You were part of this. The posts, the conversations, the Reddit comments, the TikTok videos. You were always asking the questions the show didn't want to answer. You saw the cuts. You felt Meri's exclusion. You heard all the things she couldn't say. And now, she's finally saying it. So if you did feel that shift, if you always sensed the cracks that weren't being revealed, this moment is yours as well. Leave your comments below. Were you one of the folks who always knew it was coming? Don't forget to subscribe on Reality Recap for more truth, more breakdowns, and more of the reality behind reality TV. Because the story's not over, but for the first time ever, it's being told the way it should be.